Nice speaking to all of you once again. And I would like to, at the outset, in the beginning itself, uh, express my gratitude for the big support that the Ambedkar King Study Circle has given to this movement. From the very beginning, we have had we had Shama, one of the councillors who um, passed a resolution in the council and in support of the farmers movement here, and in ensuring an international solidarity you have played a big role. I think hats off to all of you for that role you have played. Today we have we say a historic victory has been achieved by a united farmers movement, an unprecedented unity of more than 500 organizations who may have differences on other issues. We built an issue based unity and led this struggle for more than a year. In fact, 1 year of November 26th Delhi Chalo movement, but the struggle started in June 2020 itself when the ordinances were first brought. So it's a huge, prolonged struggle which has gone on for much more than a year, in which we have lost more than 700 of our comrades who have died in conditions of extreme heat, extreme cold, in heavy rain, and so on. And this Narendra Modi led BJP government was unmoved by any of these human suffering, the huge human cost that this struggle had to bear. The Prime Minister and the BJP government are culpable of this huge loss in life. It is with such sacrifice that this victory has been achieved. I recently wrote something where I mentioned, quoting from Tagore, minds without fear and heads held high. This is a victory, one with where minds are without fear and heads are held high. Despite all kinds of attacks that were mounted by the BJP government, uh, extreme repression, physical attacks, killings, and which have happened, the farmers have refused to go back. The workers, the working class, have stood solidly with the peasantry of our country, and they have refused to go back. The very clearly saying, not an inch back unless these pro corporate acts are withdrawn. Why is it that this kind of a huge mobilization, where thousands and thousands of farmers with their families have come out on protest? Why is it that this struggle is being described as one of the longest struggles in recent history? And people like Chomsky calling it a beacon of hope or a beacon of light to all the peasants and workers who are protesting against the capitalist system or the neoliberal economic model. How is it that so many people have come in? Is it just a spontaneous movement? Like some would like to believe that it's just these acts came and immediately people marched out onto the streets. But we would like to point out from 2014 onwards. In 2014, you had a Congress-led UPA government, which was also pursuing similar policies of the neoliberal economic policies and opening up agriculture for the corporate profiteering. But that had led to an extreme agrarian crisis in which there were thousands of farmers committing suicide every year. Farmers and agriculture labor in distress um, committing suicide. That was a reality in 2014. Making use of this situation of extreme poverty, agrarian distress, unemployment, price rise, Narendra Modi and BJP literally promised that they would overcome all of these and bring good days, Achhe Din, for the farmers and workers of our country. It was promised that the incomes of farmers would be doubled, and the Swaminathan Commission recommendation of providing at least C2 plus 50% as the minimum support price. C2 is the comprehensive cost, all costs of the farmers, including the land rent. At least 50% more of than that would be the minimum support price. It was said that the agricultural input, seeds, fertilizers, and pesticides and such things would be made available at cheaper rates with subsidy. It was also told that if there is crop loss, then there would be insurance. Credit would be given at low interest rates. But from the very beginning, the government was going back on its promises. When we met the agriculture minister just after they took over in 2014 and demanded that the C2 plus 50 be implemented, he said, "Why are you taking it seriously?" I mentioned this before also, but it has to be, some things have to be told again and again. He said that it is only an election time promise. We have made that promise for votes. It's not something that is going to be implemented. The BJP national president then, Amit Shah, went ahead and said it is a Chunavi Jumla, election time jingle, and it should be only seen as that. And the government went to the Supreme Court and filed an affidavit telling this cannot be implemented. 2014 December itself, a land acquisition ordinance was brought where there was no necessity for prior informed consent of the farmers or agriculture labor before land acquisition for corporate uses. We managed to build an issue-based unity against that. More than 300 organizations of farmers, agriculture labor, Dalits, Adivasis, forest workers, fishing community, all of them, and also civil society groups like the Narmada Bachao Andolan, NAPM, and such groups joined together to form the Bhumi Adhikar Andolan, or the land rights movement, on two issues. One is for land rights and forest rights, another against indiscriminate land grab for corporate profiteering. Based on the united struggles of these, the land rights movement or Bhumi Adhikar Andolan, the Modi government was forced to freeze the land acquisition ordinance, though it made 3 attempts to push through in the parliament. This was probably the first victory for united, issue-based united movement that the farmers had. And it was a slap on the face of the BJP government that they had to withdraw this act. But they pursued a different line after that. They tried to push through these legislations in the states, where in every state to build an opposition to that may not be that easy for organizations. States like Gujarat, then state like Rajasthan, some of these went ahead with much more draconian provisions. That is something which we saw in the first phase. Then there was the demonetization disaster that was foisted on the people of India, where all sections of the peasantry and working class had huge losses. The day the demonetization was announced, we were on a all India march from Tamil Nadu's Virudunagar to Delhi, and we had reached Anandpur in Andhra Pradesh, one of the hotbed of farm suicides. And the next day in the market, there was no one to purchase the produce of the farmers, especially fruits, flowers, vegetables. The farmers had to just dump it in the market because no one were willing to buy it. The notes were all taken back. It was without any discussion with state governments. So that led to a huge distress even at that time. So we had many independent protests also by the All India Kisan Sabha and different Kisan organizations in different states. But in 2017, you had the Mandsaur event where 6 farmers were shot dead in Madhya Pradesh, BJP ruled Madhya Pradesh. We happened to visit the families of these 6 farmers. What were the reason that they were shot? They were demanding a fair price for their produce. They were cultivating garlic, and a kilo of garlic, according to the farmer, would the cost of production would be anything ranging between 33 to 35 rupees. The BJP government claimed it's only 27 rupees. Even if we take the BJP government's claims as true, then 27 rupees a kg is the cost of production. In a hectare, the farmer produces around 5,000 kgs. So that would be a huge expense that he or she would incur for cultivating garlic. But in the Neemuch wholesale market, the farmer was being offered a price of rupees 1 a kg. 1 rupee a kg. So after having spent at least 27 to 35 rupees a kg as the production cost. On the same day, from this Mandsaur, I made a call back to Bangalore. I checked the costs in Reliance Fresh run by Ambani's, and it was being sold at 147 rupees a kg. Garlic in Delhi market was being sold at 200 rupees a kg. You see, this is the kind of huge profiteering that some big companies, big corporate companies are able to get away with, while the farmers are put into extreme distress. Post Mandsaur, we managed to form another issue-based unity called the All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee, which has now had more than 250 organizations on two issues. One is for remunerative price at C2 plus for farmers and for freedom from indebtedness. There were different struggles, countrywide marches, and culminating in Delhi with a farmers' parliament, a Kisan parliament, and probably for the first time in the history of these struggles, amidst the struggle itself, the farmers developed two legislations, one to ensure remunerative price, another to ensure freedom from indebtedness, and these were placed in the parliament as private member bills by the Communist Party of India Marxist MP and a joint secretary of the All India Kisan Sabha, K.K. Ragesh in Rajya Sabha, and Raju Shetty, a member of parliament elected as part of the BJP-led NDA, who quit the NDA and joined the All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee, and he placed it in the Lok Sabha. However, the Narendra Modi-led BJP government refused to heed to any of these demands. We had a huge Kisan long march from Nasik to Mumbai that literally fired the imagination of the farmers, of the working class, and boosted the confidence, because there you had more than 50,000 farmers, a large number of them women and the tribal population, marching ahead, not just on the issue of prices and loan waivers, but also on more basic demands like land, forest rights, food security, and social security, and so on. And despite marching around 186 kilometers on foot in 6 to 7 days, and the BJP government in Maharashtra was forced to bend down and accept all the 12 demands. That's why unprecedented solidarity with all sections who had till then been facing the brunt of the demonetization or the GST, coming out in support of the farmers, and a solidarity like never before. People like Sainath and others helped to further spread this, and a nation for farmers, a solidarity where you had writers for farmers, students for farmers, teachers for farmers, advocates for farmers, and so on, different sections coming forward in support of the farmers. In 2018, August 9th, on the anniversary of the Quit India movement, we had a jail borough, filling up of jails by a civil disobedience, in which more than 5 lakh workers and farmers participated. September 5th, we had a Mazdoor Kisan Sangharsh rally, that is a worker and farmer, worker peasant protest action in Delhi, where more than 200,000 people, 2 lakh people participated despite heavy rain. So that was another big action which gave confidence to the working class and the peasantry that such actions are possible and it can push the government onto the back foot. In November of 2018, you had a Kisan Mukti Yatra, where led by the All India Kisan Sanghars Coordination Committee, where again over a lakh, more than 100,000 farmers assembled in Delhi against the government policies and demanding these two acts be implemented. So this set of actions had led to a situation wherein the general slogan in the rural areas was BJP Modi Kisan Virodhi. BJP and Modi are anti-farmer. So that one should also politically, it should reflect the anger of the farmers should reflect in political decisions. So you saw some of the elections then to some states like Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, and all that, where BJP started getting electoral reverses. Sensing a negative result in different elections, just before elections, you had the Pulwama and Balakot incidents using a xenophobic, ultra-nationalist campaign, the corporate media making a big push for the BJP, and the corporate companies through electoral bonds and otherwise helping the campaign. A huge amount was spent by the ruling BJP to win over the electorate in the elections. But just before the election, it also made the announcement of the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, a so-called fund of 6,000 rupees to every farmer in our country in a year, assistance by the government. This first installment of this did come to the accounts of the farmers even on the day of voting, which is almost tantamount to bribing the voters on the day of elections. All these factors did lead to BJP coming to power again. However, its promise of providing more than 20 million jobs every year to youth, that had not materialized. In 45 years, the unemployment was at its highest. Farmers were continuing to commit suicide. In 7 years from 2014 till now, more than 100,000 farmers and agriculture workers have committed suicide. If you take the 2019-2020 figures, in addition to this, you have about 32,000 daily wage workers committing suicide in 2019, 38,000 daily wage workers committing suicide in 2020. So, and these daily wage workers also come from agrarian backgrounds. So you can imagine the extreme agrarian distress that the policies of this government have led to. The government itself has put out figures which say that a farmer, by cultivation of crops in a day, is able to earn only rupees 27 in a day from crop cultivation. That is not even $1/3 of a dollar in Indian rupees. So that is the situation, the kind of distress that the agrarian population is facing. And hunger has increased. We are now 101 in the global hunger index. Huge number of malnutrition deaths, literally starvation deaths, a big number of them children. A total denial by the government of any of this. It is in such circumstances that the pandemic struck, and for almost 3 months during the pandemic, the Modi government literally was unconcerned, and they made a extremely divisive campaign, taking up the issues of the Citizenship Amendment Act, Article 370, and so on. And post loss in the Delhi assembly elections, a full-fledged communal riots happened in which many people were killed. Also, they were engaged in horse trading to dislodge a democratically elected government in Madhya Pradesh and For our friend from America, Donald Trump, in the election year, there was an election rally held in Ahmedabad called Namaste Trump, a mega rally where it is claimed more than 1 million people participated, where the whole world was talking about physical distancing to resist the corona pandemic. So that is how, and suddenly on March 22nd, the Prime Minister announces that everyone can beat plates. A minister was heard shouting, "Go Corona, go!" And this kind of unscientific approach was there. March 24th, without any discussion with state governments, without any discussion with political parties or farmers' organizations, the lockdown was announced. Lockdown was announced when Indian farmers were literally expecting a bumper harvest. There was a huge increase in acreage of wheat cultivation that year. However, the manner in which the lockdown was announced, we have seen how millions of workers were forced to flee from their places of work back to their hometowns. And in the process, with the government doing nothing to help them, no transportation, many of them falling dead in the process, many dying in accidents, also many committing suicides. More than 1,000 um, are reported to have died during this biggest exodus after India's partition. So this led to a situation wherein there was a harvesting and marketing crisis where farmers couldn't harvest their crops, or even if they used the family labor and harvested it, they couldn't transport it to the market. If markets were nearby and if they managed to transport it to the markets, there were no buyers. So it was a huge, huge income loss for the farmers. To take an example, the grape cultivators in Maharashtra, it is a more richer sections of the peasantry. They suffered in the first phase of the lockdown more than 1,000 crores of losses. If you take wheat, for instance, in the first phase of the lockdown, compared to 2019, only 6% of the of 2019's arrivals in the market had arrived in 2020 into the market. So very clearly, farmers, agriculture labor, working class all had lost incomes. Working class, it is reported that more than 200 million workers in India lost jobs. Anything between 120 to 200 million, different reports. But Professor Arun Kumar says 20 crore people have lost their jobs during the pandemic. In such a circumstance, the first protest started on April 23rd, 2020, within a month of the lockdown, where the All India Kisan Sabha, Center for Indian Trade Unions, and All India Agriculture Workers Union joined hands with support from other youth, student, women organizations, and demanded that there should be an income support of at least 7,500 per month, waiver of loans of farmers, 200 days of work be provided under the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, a food security scheme like the Kerala government had by then announced that every person, no one should go hungry. So the Kerala Left Democratic Front government led by Comrade Pinarayi Vijayan there, for 90 lakh people, a food kit which included, other than rice, 3 types of pulses, 2 types of cooking oils, a kilo of sugar, semolina or the suji rava, a bathing soap and also washing soap, tea powder, different kinds of spices like chili powder, turmeric, sambar powder, and dhania powder. All this is being given to 90 lakh people, and in schools to about 26 lakh children also. So that is the approach taken in Kerala. We were making a demand that the Indian government should help the people in distress in these times. However, the government did nothing of that sort. They managed to start a fraudulent PM cares where donations were collected from government undertakings, from the members of parliament, from the different companies. Donations were taken, and now it is with any lack of any accountability or transparency. Now they have informed the Supreme Court that government, it is not something under the control of government. So and even the GST share, which the states, which was due to states, and states who are in the forefront of fighting the pandemic, even the GST share has not been given during this time. It is in such circumstances, in the name of self-reliance, a huge concessions have been given to the corporate companies. And suddenly in June, when there has been no demand from below for these kind of acts, in June, the ordinance route was taken and 3 ordinances were brought out by the Modi-led BJP government. It is literally keeping the farmers and the working class under lockdown and taking an approach of unlockdown for corporate loot. The 3 ordinances, immediately we built protest. The All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee, with trade unions also supporting it, the ordinances were burnt across the country in most of the districts and most villages in our country. We all know how the acts were pushed through in the parliament without any discussion. Those who opposed it, many members of parliament were suspended, and there was no, without any discussion, it was just declared that these acts have been passed. Almost simultaneously, the labor codes were also passed, where literally the hard-won rights of the working class were being snatched. It is in 1880s that the Chicago martyrs and others demanded that there should be only 8 hours of work and no cut in pay. There should be enough time for leisure and so on. And it's on basis of a lot of sacrifice that the 8 hours work had come in place. And now this government was saying that the workers should work, and there is no right for unionization. So literally the three main productive classes, agriculture, labor, the peasantry, and the working class had been hit. It was a big attack by the ruling classes on them. So that is what we witnessed. So there was immediately after the acts were passed, there was a countrywide protest. On November 26, the working class central trade unions gave a call for a general strike. On the same day, the All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee gave a call for a Gramin Bharat Hartal, or a rural strike, where agriculture, labor, and the farmers were together in this rural strike. So it is said that more than 26 crores, I hope my conversion is correct, I think 260 million people, workers, taking part in this general strike. And from states across around Delhi's border, the All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee gave a call for Delhi Chalo. So you had a big mobilization, marching of farmers marching to Delhi, especially from Punjab, Haryana, both states, which are the states which are going to be immediately hit by these policies, and thousands and thousands of people peacefully marching. We all witnessed how the government tried to block their march, stop them from coming to Delhi. The national highways were dug up. Huge trenches were dug up in the national highway. If any of us had done that, then we would be charged with destruction of public property. But here it was the ruling government which was destroying the public property, digging trenches just to stop the farmers from coming to Delhi to raise their demands. Huge shipping containers were put up. You had water cannons, you had tear gas being used, and also baton charging, lathi charge, which was done. Overcoming all these hurdles, the farmers came up to Delhi. And you had thousands and thousands of people, women in a big number, children, the entire families of farmers who had come and sitting at different borders of Delhi, the Singhu border, Tikri border, Ghazipur border, Palwal border, Shahjahanpur border, and Mewat border. In extreme cold at that time, and the government was forced to come for some negotiations. But the arrogance of the government, they repeatedly kept saying that these uh, these acts were brought for the benefit of farmers. And the BJP's claim, in fact, Narendra Modi's claim was the Indian farmers did not gain independence, win independence when um, other Indians won freedom in 1947. It is only Narendra Modi in 2020 has given the freedom for farmers to sell their produce anywhere they want. That is the kind of campaign that they were making. What was these three acts? One is to finish off the Agricultural Produce Marketing Committee, the government-controlled market yards, to finish it off. Here, in the introductory remarks, Karthik mentioned how there has been pressure internationally as well as by the corporate companies in India, the cronies of this government, who make such changes. In the World Trade Organization, repeatedly there has been pressure on India that the state should withdraw from public stock holding. It should be privatized. The subsidies for agriculture has to be cut, food subsidies has to be cut, and so on. And this was articulated almost immediately after the Modi government came to power in 2014, when a BJP leader, Shanta Kumar, was named the chairperson of a committee. And the Shanta Kumar Commission gave recommendations like winding up the Food Corporation of India and not procuring from states which are giving a bonus over and above the minimum support price and so on. Here, and the government has been claiming that it has been increasing the minimum support price. We would like to point out that this is a farce that is being again and again repeated, because the costs of production are increasing. Fertilizers, pesticides, seeds, all inputs have been decontrolled. It is the companies which decide the farm gate prices. So these prices are increasing. Now we also have a scarcity of fertilizers that is happening now. Diesel prices, which are important for irrigation, that has been increasing. It has big increase in diesel and petrol prices and so on. So naturally, the costs of production are increasing, but there is no commensurate increase. And the minimum support price, which is announced, except for wheat and paddy, where there is at least some semblance of a public procurement, in most other 23 crops, totally 23 crops where the minimum support price is announced, almost zero procurement in most of those crops. So this minimum support price announced is only something on paper for most part of the crops grown by the farmers. Only in wheat, paddy, and also some pulses, some oil seeds in few of the states. That is the procurement. This APMCs, agriculture produce markets, were brought initially in 1960s and so on to ensure that there is a level playing field for the farmers. The corporate companies cannot exploit the farmers. Now the government is throwing the baby with the bathwater, saying that there is some exploitation going on in the APMC markets, and saying that Adanis and Ambanis, Walmart and Cargill and such groups will procure from farmers at much better prices. We were shown the same dream in 1991 when the neoliberal economic policies were brought in by the Congress then, who claimed that Indian farmers will now be paid in dollars. The international prices will accrue to the farmers, and so on. And we have seen the huge human cost that these policies have led to. More than 400,000 farmers have committed suicide in the last since 95. That is the figures that the government puts out. The numbers are much higher. That is the situation here. The second act is the Essential Commodity Act Amendment. Essential Commodities Act was brought in 1950s to stop hoarding and black marketing, to ensure that the prices are kept under control and consumers are not fleeced. Now this government has literally done away with the Essential Commodity Act by saying that rice, wheat, pulses, potato, oil seeds, onion, none of these are going to be considered as essential commodities. So big companies can hoard how much ever they want. Companies like Adani seem to have known this, that this act is going to come in 2020, because already in 2014, they start building huge silos in our country. So it is literally the scriptwriter of these acts. Surely the Adanis and Ambanis are also behind the preparation of these acts. They knew that during a pandemic, you can force the government, or the government also was willing to play ball with them, and these acts were brought. Even in times of a famine here or some emergency here, the company can retain their installed capacity, take it out to nearby countries where they have processing centers and so on. That is the kind of an act that has been brought, with few very flimsy kind of safeguards that have been put. Only if there's 100% price rise, then the government will intervene and so on. The third act is the Corporate Contract Farming Act. And here again, the earlier governments, see one thing now, once this victory has happened, won by the farmers and farmers' organizations, the working class supporting them, now you also have the Indian National Congress claiming credit for this victory. I was in Kerala recently. Some were telling that Rahul Gandhi had predicted a year ago that these acts would be withdrawn. He led tractor rally in Punjab and in Kerala and so on. And that these are the reason for the withdrawal of these acts. But if you look at the Congress manifesto in 2019, it very clearly says that the Congress, if elected to power, will do away with the APMC Act. It very clearly says the Essential Commodity Act is an act of belonging to the control era. So they will do away with the Essential Commodity Act. And the manifesto says the 5 years of Narendra Modi's government has turned the clock of reforms backward. Literally everything, there's an excessive control, including by the Supreme Court. So we are going to rectify that and decontrol. That is also something the Congress manifesto mentions. It is another matter that once the farmers have risen up in this big number, the Congress also have made the right noises in the parliament and outside. Some of the Congress governments have also passed resolutions that also is a positive step. However, the policies of the BJP and Congress have been more or less the same. It is this set of policies which have led to this crisis. In this 1 year of struggle, extreme cold, I often, since I was more in charge of the Rajasthan-Haryana border, Shahjahanpur border, that is an area without any trees or buildings nearby. You have farmers who have come from almost 400 kilometers away sitting there. At least 4 times in the storms, the entire tents of farmers were destroyed. All the tents of farmers were destroyed. But the so resilient that very day there would be help coming from other sides, and farmers would immediately set up their tents. That is the situation that we had. In extreme rain in all these different struggle fronts, people have borne all that. The third act which they have brought is the Contract Farming Act, and it says the companies will basically the companies will dictate what would be grown, how it would be grown, and farmers would be converted into workers on their own fields. And even if in case there is a dispute, then it says you cannot go to the Supreme Court. So the farmers, you see, from 1991, organizations like ours have been very clearly taking a position against the neoliberal economic policies. In 92, the Congress government came with the new agriculture policy. The same year, we had the 27th conference of the All India Kisan Sabha at Hisar. We called for struggles against this. At that time, there was some illusion even among some farmers' organizations that it will benefit the farmers. But now there is a bigger realization that these policies are the reason for. So now this struggle that has been continuing, which started against the three acts, also broadened to include that the withdrawal of the Electricity Act amendments, ensure legal guarantee for MSP, act to ensure legal guarantee, and also started taking up that withdrawal of the courts. It started speaking against privatization. It started speaking on the suppression of civil liberties and the arrests of activists and so on. So in the course of the struggle, this issue-based unity has been broadening to other issues. We had a huge mobilization for the 26th January Republic Day tractor rally called the Mazdoor Kisan Tractor Rally, or Kisan Mazdoor Tractor Rally. You had around the borders of Delhi, Haryana, from Haryana, Punjab, the Rajasthan, UP, Uttar Pradesh, and Uttarakhand, and so on. You had much more than 500,000 tractors taking part and many more vehicles taking part. On 26 January, you found a group coming up to the Red Fort. That was not as per the plan with the Samyukt Kisan Morcha. The government sought to use this incident to further discredit, to try and discredit the United Kisan Movement. They have made all efforts trying to portray them, the farmers, as terrorists, Pakistani agents, Chinese agents, and different other names as it suited them. But nothing stuck to us. The people continued their support. Food grains were supplied, blankets were supplied, tents were supplied, with big solidarity actions from different sections of society. The Gurudwaras came up in a big way, setting up public kitchens, the community kitchens called the langars. All these factors helped the farmers to continue the struggle for such a long period. And after the 26th January incident, there was an effort. It should be noted that this government built concrete walls on the national highway to stop the farmers. It laid huge iron spikes on the national highway to stop the farmers. It cut internet. It cut water supply, electricity supply to these areas when in the extreme cold of January. And from 22nd January, there have been no talks. But the government expected that the farmers would go back post January 26th, the kind of repressive measures that it took, the cases foisted on the Kisan leaders and so on. However, many more farmers started coming in for this protests. We then had the Muzaffarnagar Kisan Mazdoor Mahapanchayat. It is an important place that the Samyukta Kisan Morcha chose for. Muzaffarnagar was a place where 5 years back we witnessed extreme communal riots, and the communal polarization done by the BJP and Sangh Parivar had helped them to win the UP election then. It was from Muzaffarnagar, the Kisan leaders sent a strong message of unity, communal harmony, and said we will counter the communal forces. A decision for a Mission Uttar Pradesh, Mission Uttarakhand, Mission Punjab to take a political campaign with the slogan "Vote Ka Chot," cause injury or cause defeat for BJP with our votes, anti-farmer BJP with our votes. This is in the light of earlier experience of assembly elections in 5 states, where the Samyukta Kisan Morcha had taken a campaign in the 5 states against the BJP, and BJP suffered huge reverses. In the recent by-elections that happened, particularly I would like to mention about Rajasthan. In 2 seats, the BJP candidates have come on 3rd and 4th positions, losing their deposit. They were a ruling party just few years back in Rajasthan and continue to be the strongest opposition there. But this is the kind of reaction from the people. Post Muzaffarnagar Kisan Mahapanchayat, immediately you had the Karnal incident where Sushil Kajol, a farmer, was beaten to death by the police. Preceding that, the subdivisional magistrate was seen on video giving orders to break up the heads of farmers who are coming for protest against the chief minister. I would like to mention here, in states like Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, the toll gates have been opened by the farmers. It's a toll-free movement for vehicles in these states. Punjab and Haryana fully. In Rajasthan, in a large part, the toll gates are no longer working. There has been a anti-corporate campaign where boycott of the Adani Ambani products, Jio network, Reliance petrol pump, and so on, which has also been taken. It's a very clearly from 90s we have been campaigning against the neoliberal economic policies and its impact. However, these 3 acts, the farmers it has driven home the point far more effectively, and farmers have realized that it is nothing to do with farmers' interests. It is only to provide for the corporate profiteering that these acts have been brought. They have realized that this is a life and death question for them. It is to protect agriculture. It is to protect farmers that this struggle has to emerge victorious. Post 20, this Sushil Kajol was beaten to death. The Haryana government, the chief minister was caught on video, not caught, literally openly making the announcement, calling for the Sangh Parivar activists to take up batons, lathis, to beat up the farmers and go to prisons, go to jails. And once they come out from jails, they would be recognized as political leaders. This is the advice that he was giving. So Sushil Kajol's martyrdom, it was expected by the ruling government that the people would be deterred from coming forward, but thousands and thousands of farmers literally held siege to the Karnal mini secretariat, and the government was forced to give a compensation to the family, announce a judicial inquiry, suspend the officer responsible, and so on. We then said the blows rained on Sushil Kajol, which led to his death, are the last nails in the coffin of this Narendra Modi government. We compared it with the Lathi blows on Lala Lajpat Rai who in late 1920s was protesting against the Simon Commission with the slogan "Simon, go back," and he was beaten to death. Who, before his death, said, "Every blow on my head was the last nail in the coffin of the British Empire." And in a similar way, this and the Lakhimpur Kheri incident, you all must have seen the Lakhimpur Kheri incident, where the Minister of State for Home makes a speech that give some time and they would finish off the farmers' protests. The minister's son and his vehicle was used to mow down 4 farmers, and a journalist was also killed. They fired at farmers. So these have led to a huge reaction against the BJP. There was the ashes of the martyrs of Lakhimpur was taken around every part of the country and immersed in different rivers as per the decision of the Samyukt Kisan Morcha. It is in the wake of all these and the I would say in a positive way, the stubbornness of the farmers, the steadfast support of the working class, support from other sections, which forced the Narendra Modi-led BJP government to bow down before this historic struggle. I would say that while in this struggle, the farmers and workers have won a victory over fear. They have won a victory over fear, and we have sown fear in the minds of our detractors, in the minds of our people's enemies. That is the big victory that we have been able to. And now today on 29th, the parliament already a bill to withdraw this act. But you must note one thing. If you look at the objectives of that bill, which they have brought in, they again say that these 3 acts are actually beneficial to farmers, but because a small section has protested, that is why it is being withdrawn. This is where what Karthik was pointing out in the beginning, that it is very much possible that they would bide time and come in different forms much later on. And they are also talking about how some states can bring in and so on, especially the BJP ruled states can bring in. But our experience of withdrawal of APMC Act in Bihar and all that are there, the farmers are going to rise up in protest. Now when they come for this, and the Samyukt Kisan Morcha also said our struggle is not going to end. Whether it has to be the same form, that we will consider. But the struggle will continue. This unity of 500 organizations, that is going to continue. The unity with the working class, the central trade unions and the SKM. Even 2 days back, there has been a joint meeting of the Samyukt Kisan Morcha and central trade unions, where now we are talking about a mission 2024. Not just the mission Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Punjab, a mission 2024 where this anti-farmer, anti-people BJP has to be defeated. So I would like to end by quoting Lenin, that there are some decades where nothing happens, and there are few weeks when decades happen. So there was the argument was the farmers' protest is dying down, people are going back, when actually farmers went back for their agricultural activity. This kind of a campaign was, but now this has set in process where we will see fast-paced developments in our country, where it is going to, what could not happen in long time, we will find a change. That will be a change towards a pro-farmer, pro-worker policies. No government can ignore or go against the interests of the farmers. That kind of a movement has been built. I think all of you have supported. Big solidarity actions have happened in United States, in Canada, in Australia, in different European countries. An interesting incident was when the British Parliament had this discussion. One of the members of parliament called up, sought more information about the acts. They gave a link so that I could attend the parliament proceedings that day. And you had the likes of Jeremy Corbyn and others also voicing their protest against the government's. There has been extreme repression, which has been imposed on the activists and so on. Young activists have been arrested, put in jail. So all these are issues. This struggle has transformed from a farmer's struggle to a people's struggle. It will go ahead to ensure that the constitution and democratic rights of our people are protected. It will go ahead to ensure that an alternative set of pro-people policies would be implemented. Thank you, friends.